There's always the factual level, things that are happening at the factual level, and there's always a deep symbolic level. Jesus, God himself in human form, coming among us, bringing light, bringing faith, bringing belief, and being a judgment, as he says at the end of the gospel. The Pharisees, since they think they know everything, they see their sin remains. They have rejected Jesus because he heals on the Sabbath, and they're so stuck on their Sabbath laws that you don't work on the Sabbath. And Jesus has argued with them hundreds of times over this. He said, which one of you on your Sabbath, if your ox or your ass falls into a ditch and is dying there, won't take him out? Well, how much more a son or daughter of Abraham when they are in need? But they close their hearts. Why? Because Jesus is calling them to conversion. Not a religion of just going through the motions, a religion of a change of heart, a religion of justice, of love, of worship, of goodness, and holiness. And they don't want that. They don't want that. They want a religion of where they're number one and everybody thinks they're great and they're in the front pews and all of that sort of thing. So they reject Jesus. They say, we see, we know who you are, we know everything. We're the disciples of Moses. And Jesus says, yes, you see, don't you? It means you're truly blind. The people who are blind, like this man who was born blind, or like the rest of us who may not have been born blind, but realize that we are blind to so much of God's goodness. There's so much we don't understand. We're humble enough to know that we are not living up to all that God wants of us and asks of us. That kind of humility, Jesus says, enables us to see. He could work with humble men and women. He can't work with proud and close-minded people. Now, the line that I want to key in on, I think, is so important in the gospel. It's right towards the beginning. Rabbi, who sinned? You see, the Jews believed, as we do, that since God created everything, everything is good. You know, we have the account of Genesis, the first day and the second day, the light, the water, the earth, the animals, man. And God always says, it is good. And evening and morning came the third day, the fourth day. It is all good. There are some religious philosophies that say there's goodness in the world and there's badness in the world. And there's a good God that created the good stuff, and a bad God, or a devil, a very powerful devil that created the bad stuff. We don't believe that. Where do we believe evil comes from? In disease and destruction and disorder. From the human will. It is when Adam and Eve and the rest of us all decide we have a better idea than God for our own happiness. We will organize things our own way. Thank you very much, God. You guys created, now just, bug off. We'll take care of things for now. Evil comes from the human will. But the Jews here in today's gospel believe that not only does it come through the disorder that our sin has created in the world, all of the injustice, the unbelief, the bad habits of thinking, the terrorism, evil taking indirect forms and coming back and boomeranging upon us. They believe that if a person is suffering, it is their own private sin that is making the suffering always. So that's why they say, who sinned? Was it this man or his parents? Because the parents' sins can be visited upon their children. Jesus said, neither. Neither. So that gets the attention. Okay, then what? Jesus said, it is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. So Jesus is saying, I'm not going to be guessing with you whose sin caused this poor man to be blind from birth. Blind from birth is bad in our culture, but imagine theirs. All you can do is beg and be poor and be ridiculed. So it's a terrible affliction. And Jesus is saying, God can make visible his works through him. In other words, what Jesus is asking us to look at is the difficulties, the sufferings, the crosses in our life are allowed by God. Not a thing happens without God allowing it. And why would God allow suffering? And, every kind of thing. People's finances collapsing, marriages on the rocks, children going to drugs, cancer, and all sorts of diseases afflicting people, and just one setback after another. We all have 1,001. Why would God allow this when he loves us so much? He allows crosses and difficulties in our life so that he can love us more. Because we grow through suffering that we accept. As you know, most of you know, almost 2 years ago, I came down with cancer in my heart. Had the cancer taken out. 3 months ago, the cancer returned in my brain, returned in my lungs, returned in my spine. And so I've had a couple surgeries since then to try to reduce it. Soon, next week, I'll start 6 weeks of radiation treatment to further try to shrink the tumor in my head. And, whatever else we can do. Well, I can tell you that the last 2 years dealing with cancer and the imminence of death, I don't know when it's going to happen. It could be 2 months, it could be 2 years. I have no idea. And what the suffering, what the difficulty is going to be, I don't know. I must say that a couple surgeries and this and that, it hasn't been so hard. I feel pretty good. But I don't know. But what I do know is God is working very intimately with me. And, I've been working in a parish in Tucson, Arizona this past year. And you work in a parish and you become knowledgeable of the crosses that are in everybody's life. There's so many people dealing with cancer, so many people dealing with one problem after another in their work and in their family. And I certainly have been more aware, more compassionate, more tuned in to people's sufferings. But the thing is that the Lord has taught me exactly what he's teaching us in the gospel today, that God allows bad things to happen to us, what we would call bad things, only so that he can make his works visible in us. What are his works? Always saving works. Always works that are making us holier, more loving, more sensitive, more Christ-like people. Which is to say that the cross and suffering is not the great evil in our life that our secular society portrays it as. You watch the advertisements on TV, and they're all about eliminating one kind of suffering or inconvenience after another. And they tell you all the side effects, and you should tremble when you hear the side effects, and stay away from most of that stuff. But our society, you see, when a culture is losing its consciousness of God, then we have to be God, which means we have to avoid all suffering and difficulty and chance, and we have to be in control. And that's what's happening in our society. As people lose their consciousness of God, then we are looking out after our convenience, after our pleasure. We're trying to keep difficulty at bay, and we're full of anxiety, trying to control this whole thing. And God the Father is saying, relax. I am your Father. I am the Good Shepherd. Nothing shall you want. Even if you walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I am with you. My rod and my staff, they comfort you. I will be with you.